At my sister-in-law's baby shower, she came up to me when no one was looking. Her smile was sweet, practiced, camera ready, the same one she used every time she posed for Instagram. Then she leaned in close and whispered into my ear, her breath warm and deliberate. "I'm pregnant with your fiancé's baby, you plain little nobody." My fingers tightened around the gift bag I was holding, but I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't slap her like some women might have done. I just smiled. And I whispered back, "Congratulations. I actually brought you a gift. Open it later. Alone." She blinked slightly, caught off guard by my calmness. I could tell she was expecting a dramatic reaction, maybe a tearful exit, or a trembling voice begging for answers. But I had learned long ago that tears don't solve anything, especially when the enemy wears lipstick and designer maternity dresses. The living room of my future in-law's house was decorated like something out of a Pinterest board. Pink and white balloons floated against the ceiling. A hand-painted sign said, "Welcome baby," in gold cursive letters. Everything looked perfect. It always did when Jasmine was involved. She was the queen of perfection, my sister-in-law to be. Married to Matthew's older brother, she had quickly become the golden girl of the family. Everyone loved her. She was charming, beautiful, successful, and effortlessly manipulative. No one ever seemed to notice the last part, but me. I stood there for a moment after she walked away, still smiling, still clutching the little gift bag that contained something far more explosive than anyone in that room could imagine. My heart was pounding, not from shock, but from the weight of the moment I had been planning for weeks. I glanced over at Matthew, my fiancé. He was standing near the cake table laughing at something his brother said. He looked relaxed, happy, completely unaware that the life he had built on lies was about to collapse. He hadn't noticed Jasmine's whisper. He hadn't seen my smile. He hadn't seen any of it. It was fine. He would soon enough. The truth was I had known for a while. Not everything, not the details, but I had known something was off. The late-night phone calls, the sudden work trips, the way Jasmine looked at him when she thought no one was watching, the way he never noticed me noticing. I wasn't always this composed. I used to be the kind of woman who cried in the bathroom when someone hurt her, who questioned her own worth when people dismissed her, who tried harder to please people who never saw her in the first place. But not anymore. Not after what I had discovered. Not after what I had planned. So I took my place back at the table with the other guests, smiled through the small talk, and ate a slice of strawberry cake that tasted too sweet. Jasmine continued to flutter around the room like the perfect hostess, occasionally placing her hand over her bump, for the cameras laughing just a little too loudly. No one suspected a thing, not yet. But by the end of that day, someone would cry. Someone would beg. Someone would lose everything they thought they had secured through betrayal. And it wouldn't be me, not this time. People like Jasmine always win, at least in the beginning. That's something I'd learned growing up with girls like her, glossy hair, glossy smiles, glossy lives. They sparkle in every room and make you feel like background noise. And no matter how smart you are, or how much you try to be kind, you'll always be second place in their story. That's how I felt from the very beginning with Matthew's family. I met him 3 years ago at a literary fundraiser. He was charming, sharp, and refreshingly low-key for a man from an old money family. I worked as a book editor back then, still do quiet behind the scenes, nothing flashy. Matthew was different from the men I dated before. He listened when I talked, or at least I thought he did. When he proposed last winter, I expected his family to be surprised, maybe even hesitant. I wasn't rich, I wasn't glamorous. But I didn't expect to be treated like I was some sort of inconvenience. It started with small comments from his mother. "She's very quiet, isn't she?" Then came the comparisons. Jasmine handled her wedding planning so gracefully, and she was working full-time too. "You might want to ask her for tips." Jasmine. Always Jasmine. She married Matthew's older brother Charles 2 years before Matthew and I got engaged. And ever since she had become the crown jewel of the Holloway family, she was everything I wasn't. Ivy League degree, high-paying corporate job, magazine feature looks. The first time I met her, she hugged me like an old friend complimented my shoes, and then without missing a beat told Matthew in front of everyone that I reminded her of a librarian she once had in second grade. Very sweet, very dull. I laughed it off at the time. But that was Jasmine's way. Polished cruelty gift wrapped as friendliness. It was always subtle, always deniable. That's what made it so effective. She would show up to brunches in sleek dresses and perfect makeup, while I showed up in soft sweaters and jeans. She would talk about investor portfolios and travel plans, while I asked about people's favorite books. She knew how to make me feel small without ever raising her voice. Matthew never seemed to notice. Or maybe he chose not to. He loved his brother. He loved his family. He didn't want to see the undercurrents. I didn't want to either at first, but then Jasmine started texting Matthew more frequently. At first it was innocent, family group chats, updates about Charles' random memes. Then there were texts late at night, just questions about Charles's birthday gift, she said. Just planning a surprise for his promotion party, she said. But she never texted me about any of it. Not once. Then came the changes in Matthew. Subtle ones. He stopped asking how my day was. He stopped offering to pick up dinner. He started working late more often. His phone never left his hand. And one night when he fell asleep on the couch, I saw it, her name, on his lock screen. Can't stop thinking about earlier. He woke up before I could see the full message. I didn't confront him. I didn't want to believe it yet. Instead, I started watching. I paid attention to Jasmine's movements. I noticed how she always managed to stand near Matthew at family gatherings, how her laugh was louder when he spoke, how she touched his arm when she wanted his attention. I noticed how she rarely looked at Charles anymore. The man she married had become background to her now, just like I had always been to her. At a family dinner 3 weeks before the baby shower, Jasmine made a toast. She raised her glass to Charles and said, "To the man who gave me stability, and to the family who gave me everything I ever dreamed of." She didn't look at Charles when she said it. She looked at Matthew. And then she looked at me. It was that moment I really knew that something had happened between them. Still, I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. Instead, I smiled. I played the sweet, unremarkable fiancée. I continued being the woman everyone assumed was too soft to notice. But behind that smile, I started collecting things. I started logging Jasmine's behavior. I saved text previews when Matthew left his phone unattended. I documented every time they disappeared during family events. I wrote it all down not because I planned to confront them with it, but because I needed the truth to become undeniable to myself. Then I reached out to an old friend, Allison. She had once been a research assistant for an investigative journalist. Now she ran a private firm that did background checks and corporate intel. I told her everything. I said I need to know who the father of Jasmine's baby really is. She hesitated at first. "Are you sure you want to go there?" "I'm not sure," I said, "but I'm tired of pretending not to see." She agreed. 2 weeks before the baby shower, Allison sent me a discreet envelope. Inside were surveillance photos, Jasmine and Matthew together. Not just at family events, but at a hotel 2 towns over. I felt sick, but I didn't cry. I asked Allison for one more thing. "Get me a DNA sample. How you said you know how to get things done." 4 days later, I had what I needed. A sample of Jasmine's prenatal test, and one of Matthew's toothbrush taken from his travel bag. I paid for expedited results. When the email came in, I didn't open it right away. I just stared at the subject line, "Paternity Analysis Matthew Holloway." Not excluded or excluded. I opened it. Excluded 0% probability. Matthew wasn't the father. My knees buckled, but I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because Jasmine's whole performance had just collapsed in silence. And she didn't even know it yet. That's when I decided exactly how I'd play this. I didn't want revenge in the loud way people think of it. I didn't want to throw a drink in her face. I didn't want to scream. I wanted silence. I wanted a gift bag. I wanted Jasmine to open something she couldn't return. And I wanted her to remember for the rest of her life that the plain little nobody saw everything and planned everything. I spent the week before the baby shower with perfect calm. That in itself was strange for me. In the past, I would have been a bundle of nerves overthinking what to wear, what to say, how to smile in family photos. But this time I was focused. focused on the moment Jasmine would open the gift, focused on everything I wanted her to feel when she did. There was something liberating about having the truth on your side and knowing exactly when to use it. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was orchestrating. I printed the DNA test results on crisp white paper. I highlighted the most important line in yellow, probability of paternity 0%. I attached a copy of the hotel surveillance photo Jasmine and Matthew leaving the entrance separately, but 10 minutes apart, both looking over their shoulders. I also added screenshots of text messages Allison had recovered. Jasmine had been careless with her old phone. She hadn't deleted everything. In one message, she wrote, "I told you once I'm pregnant, it's all set. I'll say it's yours. She'll never question it." Matthew had responded, "You sure it's mine, Jasmine? Don't worry, if it's not, no one has to know. Just keep her in check until we sort it out." There was no more room for doubt. I didn't even need to hear them admit it. I placed everything neatly in a soft pink envelope. Then I bought a baby onesie, the kind that says "Hello Daddy" in curly letters across the front. I folded the onesie over the documents, tied it with a pale pink ribbon, and tucked it all into a gift bag with baby shower tissue paper. Then I wrote a card. "To Jasmine, for all the surprises you've given us. Here's one in return. Clara." I sealed the card, added a bow to the bag, and put it with the rest of the gifts I would be bringing. On the outside, it looked like any other thoughtful present. On the inside, it was a weapon. The baby shower was scheduled for Sunday afternoon at the Holloway family estate. Of course it was. The family never missed an opportunity to show off their wealth with curated floral arrangements, catered food, and picture-perfect events. I arrived in a pale blue dress, hair pinned back, simply minimal makeup. Not trying to impress, not trying to outshine, just calm. Jasmine greeted me at the door radiant in a long ivory maternity gown with gold earrings and perfect lipstick. Her smile widened when she saw me. "You made it," she said, hugging me with one arm while holding her bump with the other. "I wasn't sure you'd show after everything." I smiled. "Of course I would. Family comes first, right?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, but only for a moment. I handed her the gift bag. "Open this one later," I said gently. "It's personal." She looked down at it, brow slightly furrowed. "Sure," she said. "Thanks." The room was full of well-dressed women friends of the family, old schoolmates and socialites. Everyone circled Jasmine like she was royalty. She told stories about her pregnancy, what names they were considering, how Charles had cried when she told him the news. I wondered how much of that was true. Matthew arrived an hour later. He looked surprised to see me, then quickly recovered with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey," he said, stepping toward me. "You look beautiful." I nodded. "Thanks." He leaned in to kiss my cheek, but I stepped back slightly, pretending not to notice. He looked confused. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. He would understand soon enough. We made small talk. I laughed when I needed to. I complimented the cake. I listened politely to stories about baby names and nursery color palettes. But underneath, I was watching Jasmine. Every move, every glance she gave Matthew, every moment she acted like she was still in control. The moment came toward the end of the event. People had started to leave. Jasmine sat in a wingback chair surrounded by pastel gift bags. A few friends were helping her open them, passing each one to her for photos. She opened mine last. She recognized the handwriting on the card. She knew who it was from. Her smile faltered slightly, just slightly, but enough for me to see. She lifted the onesie from the bag and held it up for the cameras. Everyone clapped. Then she saw what was underneath. The pink ribbon had slipped slightly, revealing the corner of the DNA test form. Her hands trembled. She quickly tucked it back in and stood up. "Excuse me," she said. "Just need a bathroom break." I stood too, quietly. I followed her down the hallway as far as I could without drawing attention. When I passed the guest room door a few minutes later, I heard the crinkle of paper, then silence. Then something crashed, probably a makeup tray or glass perfume bottle. I kept walking. Back in the living room, Matthew was checking his phone, frowning. He looked up at me, concerned. "Did you say something to her?" I smiled, cool and patient. "She's just processing." 10 minutes later, Jasmine reappeared, her face, pale lips tight. She avoided my gaze and announced she wasn't feeling well. Charles offered to drive her home, but she insisted on going alone. She didn't even say goodbye to me. After she left, Matthew cornered me near the back patio. "What did you do?" His voice was low but urgent. "Nothing you didn't do first," I said softly. "But if you're really wondering, maybe check your old texts." He stared at me. "You went through my phone." "No, but someone else did." She wasn't as careful as she thought. He opened his mouth to say something, maybe to lie, maybe to defend himself, but I didn't give him the chance. "I'm calling off the wedding." His eyes widened. "Clara, wait." "I waited long enough," I said. "I waited while you lied. I waited while your family judged me. I waited while you let her humiliate me." He shook his head, stepping closer. "It didn't mean anything." "It meant enough for you to betray me," I said. "I love you," he said, his voice cracking. I nodded. "Maybe, but you love power more. You loved the way she made you feel like you were better than me. You didn't stop because you didn't care if it hurt me." He didn't deny it. I stepped back. "You don't get to keep me as your backup plan, Matthew." I left him standing on the patio, the sounds of the party dimming behind me. I walked to my car with steady feet, heart racing, but not breaking. Because for once, I wasn't the one being left behind. I was the one leaving. And I left knowing that Jasmine had just lost everything she thought she controlled. Matthew, her secret, her narrative. I didn't need to expose her publicly. I just needed to let her know she wasn't untouchable. Not anymore. And from now on, she would never be able to look at a gift bag the same way again. The following days passed quietly, but not peacefully. When you expose someone who thrives on image, the silence they leave behind is louder than any confrontation. Jasmine didn't call. She didn't text. Neither did Matthew. But the ripple effects began quickly. On Tuesday morning, I received a call from Charles Matthew's brother, Jasmine's husband. He was calm, too calm. "I'd like to talk," he said. "Alone." We met at a quiet cafe near the University District. He ordered black coffee. I ordered tea. He stared at his hands for a long time before he finally looked up at me. "She left," he said. I said nothing. She told me she needed space, that she was overwhelmed. But then I found the envelope. My chest tightened. "You saw it?" He nodded. "The DNA test, the photos, the messages. All of it." I waited. "I always thought I was boring," he said with a bitter laugh. "I figured Jasmine just married me because I was safe, stable, predictable. But I didn't think she'd betray me with my own brother." He looked at me, eyes hollow. "I'm sorry, Clara. You didn't deserve any of this." "Neither did you," I said quietly. He nodded. "Do you want me to tell the family about what she did?" I shook my head. "No. Let them draw their own conclusions. Jasmine always hated losing control of the story." "That's enough punishment." He looked surprised. "You're not angry?" "Oh, I'm angry," I said, "but I'm not here to burn everything down. I'm here to rebuild without them." Charles left the cafe with his shoulders slumped, but his steps a little more purposeful. I think he needed someone to tell him that it was okay to walk away from her. By Thursday, the Holloways had heard everything. Not from me, but from Whisper's inconsistencies and Jasmine's sudden disappearance. I received a short formal message from Matthew's mother. "We are disappointed in how things have unfolded. You will not be invited to future family events. We wish you well." That message made me laugh more than anything else had. They still thought they were the ones doing the dismissing. I deleted it without replying. A week later, I packed up my apartment. I had already given notice at work, having accepted a new position at a publishing house in Portland. It was a fresh start, not an escape, but a step forward. Allison helped me with the move. She never said I told you so. She just loaded boxes, played music, and made me laugh when I needed it most. Before I left town, I took one last walk through the Holloway Estate garden. It was a quiet morning, dew on the grass, the air still. No one was home, but I didn't need to go inside. I just stood by the fountain where Jasmine had once posed for engagement photos, her hand on her stomach beaming for the camera. There was no audience now, no spotlight, just silence. I left a single note on the porch, no signature, no threat. Truth is quieter than lies, but it lasts longer. And then I left. Portland was rainier than I remembered, but it felt right. My new job was challenging, but fulfilling. I worked with authors who actually cared about words, not status. My boss respected my instincts. My coworkers brought in homemade bread and shared stories instead of gossip. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand why I had let myself become so invisible in that family. And over time, I became visible to myself again. 3 months after the baby shower, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Charles. The divorce is final. She moved to Miami to live with her cousin. I don't think she'll be back. I found the onesie you gave her. Still folded. Never touched. Thank you for showing me the truth. Take care, Charles. I kept the letter, not because I needed it, but because it reminded me of something important. Even the strongest masks crack when faced with undeniable truth. And sometimes the ones who seem the weakest are simply the ones waiting for the right moment to speak. I wasn't the same Clara I was before, and I never would be again. 6 months after the baby shower, a package arrived at my new apartment. There was no note, no return address, just a soft rectangular box wrapped in brown paper. I turned it over in my hands, uncertain, until I saw the handwriting on the shipping label. It was Jasmine's. I sat on the edge of my kitchen stool and opened it carefully. Inside was a small hand-knit baby blanket, pale yellow with soft stitching. Beneath it was a photograph, a baby boy with a full head of dark hair and big, searching eyes. On the back of the photo, she had written, "His name is Adrian. You were right. Thank you for not destroying me when you had the chance." That was it. No apology, no excuses. Just a small acknowledgement from a woman who had built her entire life on controlling narratives and finally learned what it felt like to lose hers. I stared at the photo for a long time. He was beautiful, innocent. He didn't ask for any of the lies, the manipulation, the games. I placed the picture back in the box and wrapped the blanket around it again. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. A few weeks later, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize at first. Subject line: guest speaker inquiry. It was from a women's nonprofit based in Seattle. One of the coordinators had heard about my story through a mutual acquaintance, Allison most likely, and wanted to invite me to speak at an event called Women Who Reclaimed Their Voice. My first instinct was to decline. I wasn't a public speaker. I wasn't someone who enjoyed standing in front of crowds telling personal stories. That had always been Jasmine's domain: perfect hair, perfect voice, perfect spotlight. But then I remembered the girl I used to be, the one who let people talk over her, the one who was too polite to interrupt, the one who smiled through humiliation because she thought being liked was more important than being respected. I thought about her, and I said yes. The event was small, maybe 40 people, intimate. I wore a soft green blouse and brought nothing but my story. I told them about being dismissed. I told them about betrayal, and I told them about silence, how powerful it can be when it's intentional, when it's measured, when it's loaded with truth. When I finished, a woman near the back raised her hand. She was in her 60s, hair silver and tied back, eyes sharp and kind. "How did you know the right time to act?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "I didn't," I said. "I just knew I couldn't let someone else write the ending for me. So I made a new one." There was a pause, then applause, not loud, not thunderous, just steady. And it was enough. After the event, one of the younger attendees came up to me. She was maybe 23 with short curls and nervous eyes. "I saw someone treat my sister the way they treated you," she said. "And she never fought back. She just disappeared." "But you didn't disappear." I smiled. "I did for a while," I admitted, "but only to build a better version of myself. Quiet doesn't mean gone." She nodded, and I knew she understood. Later that night, as I sat by my apartment window, watching the city lights blink on, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not triumph, not vengeance, just a calm, settled truth inside me. Matthew had faded into the background of my memory. Jasmine had retreated into her own consequences, and I had rebuilt a life that felt mine fully, finally. In the end, I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. I needed space. And I needed to remember that sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is stay silent until she chooses not to. I chose not to, and that changed everything.